Hey guys, so today we're going to be talking about something a little different on Shalom Aleichem. Today we will be talking about dissociative identity disorder. So I wanted to ask someone else to talk about this because I don't know much about it, but I'm really interested in it and I'd like to learn more. So I decided since I want to learn more, maybe you guys want to learn more, so I just asked Jamie1982 to come in and do an interview with me. So we did that over Google Hangout, and I'm about to edit that together with this intro. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this because I had a lot of fun filming it. It was really nice getting to know Jamie because we'd never been in a hangout before, but it was really nice to get to know her and speak with her and learn more about dissociative identity disorder. Yeah. So I will see you guys at the end of the video and enjoy. Hey Jamie, can you hear me?
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good.
Not too bad getting
Yeah, it wasn't as hard as I expected it to be.
It's really a lot easier. It just kind of takes getting to know the system a little bit and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, because I was like, oh, she hit live really early on.
Yeah, I kind of had no idea what I was doing, so.
Yeah, you can wait. I mean, you can actually hang out in the room without hitting live to begin with, and even at the end, like once you hit live, it doesn't necessarily close out the hangout. Everyone can stay in the room and just chill and stuff. So
that's good to know.
Yeah, no, it is. It took me a while to kind of like get used to it and be like, okay, it's not gonna like shut off or anything.
Yeah.
So it's weird, but
computers.
How have you been?
Computers are difficult to work with, but we kind of need them, so.
Yeah, they're nice. It's just, I don't know, it would be nice if like Google had like a better instruction manual on it and stuff. But I think they're still working out the kinks and stuff on it, so.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you want to start, or are you ready?
Sure, yeah, why don't we go?
All right. So I'm just gonna ask a couple of, I have 12 questions, so okay. It shouldn't take that long, but it depends. I was just gonna ask some general questions about living with dissociative identity disorder and about what it is and stuff like that. If that's okay?
Okay. Sure, that's fine.
Okay, so can you tell us like a general definition of what it is?
Yeah, DID, it's a trauma-based disorder. You have to have severe childhood trauma when you're usually before the age of 8 years old. And it's when, to deal with the traumas that happened, people will make up other identities or fragments of themselves, usually as a defense mechanism, so they can go on with their lives and deal with the situation that they were presented, at least with the trauma situation. So, I mean, the alters that are created, it usually has to be at least 2 alters to be diagnosed with it, at the minimum. They usually will not diagnose you with that. They'll go to the lower range of the dissociation spectrum, but it's usually the alters are created so that way it can block part of the brain from actually knowing what trauma occurred until the brain is ready to actually deal with it. Okay.
So when you say that people create alters, do they do this consciously or is it completely unconscious?
You have to have the capacity to dissociate to that extent. So part of it's just a natural ability to do it to that extent, but it's subconscious. It's not like, especially because kids do it. They're not aware of what they're doing. They're just trying to find a way to cope with that traumatic situation at the best they can. And going into an imaginary world essentially is one of the best ways for them to escape whatever is happening to them during that time. So, I mean, it's definitely subconscious.
So, how would you describe DID? To you, what is DID?
What is it?
Yeah, how would you describe it, personally for you?
Personally, for me, I mean, I've got 7 other alters, and for some people, it can be completely debilitating. A lot of people with DID, they have a very, very hard time functioning. I'm actually pretty high functioning with it. thankfully. So it's not as bad for me, but it's bothersome to have, because you hear voices telling you what to do or trying to manipulate you, and you'll have urges that you don't understand why, and you blank out, you lose time, and losing time is actually really frustrating and hard to deal with, especially being told from other people about what you may or what have you were doing or said during that lost time, but you don't remember it. So it's hard to to accept, really, especially for things that that happen outside of the main like the person that's out the most, who's fronting the most. If it's other alters take control and do something that alter might not necessarily have done or said, they can destroy relationships, and just destroy a person's life if another alter that doesn't like that, the body's reality, can take control and just do things that, without permission. So it's frustrating. It's really, really frustrating. It's hard to manage, and it's stressful to manage. You're always worried and anxious about who can take control based on triggers.
That's really interesting. Like I don't really I want to do this interview with you because I don't really understand DID, but it really interests me how someone's brain could do that.
It's really amazing when you think about it, that because it's basically all it's the imagination, it's the brain creating it. It's not like we actually have real people inside us. It's the brain creating this whole other world and taking control, essentially. It's really amazing when you think about it, but it's hard because you can't just take control back either. It's like an internal battle going on.
So you kind of already answered this a bit, but do you have anything else to add on this? What is it like to live with DID on a daily basis?
Oh, it's stressful. It's so frustrating because your life can be going on one track, and you can feel whole maybe for a short period of time, for a day or even a week maybe, or a couple hours, and then all of a sudden you can split off and have all these different urges and thoughts and things that you want that are totally separate and different from the track that your main life is going on. So it's hard to battle with all the other parts of yourself and try to keep them on that main track. So it's for me, it's keeping that balance and that focus. It's very hard and very tiring. And even dissociation on the lower level, where you have out-of-body experiences on a daily basis and you don't recognize yourself. It's very stressful, and you're always questioning who are you, what do you want, is this what you want in life, and just maintaining that purpose, so you do want to keep going forward in life and getting better. That's the main thing that's hard to keep me forward in life. Basically, that's the thing that keeps driving me. So yeah, DID for me on a daily basis, it's stressful, it's frustrating. I'm constantly worried if I'm going to mess up my daughter, because there are some alters that don't accept her as my daughter as much. They don't take it out on her or anything, but there's always that worry that what if they say something or do something to her that, will hurt her emotionally. Because once you say certain things or do certain things, you can't take that back. You can explain it as best you can, but in the end, that's still going to hurt that person that you love. So, yeah. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, that answers it really well, actually. What else do I have here? So you discussed how it affects your relationships, and what do you think is the biggest struggle? Would that be the biggest struggle, living with DID, or do you think there's another one that you could add on to talk about?
Yeah, that being the biggest, but God, there's many that they come and go. The biggest depression is sort of an offshoot of dealing with DID. So making sure that, especially the alters that are prone to depression, making sure that they kind of stay out of it or they don't go into a deep depression. That's also another really, really big struggle with this disorder, because you don't want those depressed alters to take control and possibly do something that they can't reverse. You know, dealing with suicidal tendencies, and there's one aspect that really, really wants to go forward and go and deal with it, but then there's the other parts of you that don't. So trying to maintain a balance so that that really depressed alter doesn't fully take control and do it. It's really hard. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of really big challenges, but yeah, there's just maintaining balance so that you don't go, you know, to make all the alters happy. That's the hardest thing. I mean, I have an 8-year-old alter that really wants this relatively expensive toy. It's a Minion toy, and I don't really want to buy it, but that alter wants it, and I mean, I'm just worried that like one day that child alter is going to take control over when I'm in the store and just go and buy it, and I'm going to be mad. So I don't know. I've been debating with myself about actually whether or not to let that alter have the toy, even though it's $40. I think that's kind of expensive for a toy. You know, but I've actually been debating about giving in so the alter doesn't do it behind my back and I find out later and it causes more havoc. I mean, it's just balance like that with keeping all the alters happy with all their different wants and urges and needs is really hard. So that's probably the biggest challenge.
So it's almost like forgive me if this is completely wrong and completely off, and correct me too, but it's almost like you're trying to take care of like all these different personalities, and that you're the host personality, so you have to take care of them all almost. And
yeah.
Like you have to make sure you don't do something to your body that you're gonna regret, or your alters.
Exactly. You have to be very diligent and try to maintain communication with as many of the alters as you can. So, you know, you can't, I mean, if there's a child alter, you're going to have to be the mother or the father for what that alter needs. If there's a teenage alter, you have to maybe be a really, really strict parent or just be their buddy. But you've got to be everything for what everyone wants, basically. And it's stressful and it's very tiring.
Yeah, I could imagine how stressful that would be. It's almost like having a whole family like inside your head. Wow. It
is, and that's kind of like the weird thing, because you when they're all talking and active, it's really, really frustrating, and you just want them to shut up, and sometimes they won't. But then all of a sudden, when they're really quiet, it's really disturbing. Like you're like, what's going on? So it's maintaining like you kind of hear them sometimes all the time. That's like the comfortable norm. So yeah.
How do you feel? This is kind of changing the topic a bit. How do you feel about the media's portrayal of dissociative identity disorder? Because I know I've seen it like on like TV and stuff, and like I've seen specific episodes like court shows and stuff like that, like Law and Order and stuff like that, where it's just I don't know, because since I don't have it, I don't have personal experience with it. I don't know if it's really accurate or not. So I was just wondering what your personal opinion is on the media's portrayal of it.
Most of the things, especially like the main movies, which is Eve, and Sybil, which most people think of because those are the older ones that kind of paved the way for what most people think DID or multiple personality disorder actually are. Those are extremely off. Having alters that noticeably to the outside world take control, it's a very, very rare part of DID. Usually it's very covert. Most people are not going to recognize when I switch, or when most people with DID switch. It's very, very hard. Hang on, I have this person trying to call and I'm on Skype all of a sudden. But the most recent media with DID portrayal is the United States of Tara. That's actually not that bad. It is a little bit dramatic. The one thing that I really don't agree with is the switching. They make the switching really obvious, And some of the altars want to dress, differently. They have, it's completely obvious, which I get why they make that for a TV show. But there are a lot of things that I do resonate with, and I don't think that they're that off. Some of the things were with how disruptive it can be to the family and how stressful it is and how tiring it is on her, her character. That was completely accurate. There's also another movie, Frankie and Alice, that's on Netflix now. And I think it's supposed to take place in the 70s or 80s, if I remember correctly. But there are some, that was relatively accurate. I mean, her alters took control in a very, very obvious way, which, yeah, that's not really accurate. But her finding ways to coping with it and dealing with it, and trying to communicate with the alters, that was kind of accurate. I think in both medias, they showed like handwritten notes that the alters would leave. That happens a lot, but most of the media that's actually there's a just send you the link. There's a short film on YouTube. I think it's called The Insiders. I'm not entirely sure. I'll send you the link. That's it's only like a 5-minute, YouTube, video on DID. And that's the most accurate representation that I have seen. I actually wish that they would make it into a longer film, but it's, of how DID can feel to a person. I mean, they don't show the switching. It's all internal, but it's very accurate of how it feels though, to have all these different parts of you inside of you, inside. So, but yeah, most media is not entirely accurate, and it's really, really skewed and dramatized. So if people, when they're watching things that are trying to portray DID or multiple personality disorder, just keep in mind that people don't switch like that. It's not obvious. Most people in my real life, they don't know that I have DID. They would be shocked to learn that I had it and that I switch and stuff. It can be very, very hard to catch. You really have to spend a lot of time around the person. And a lot of things are very, very subtle. And even when I switch, I won't acknowledge it. Like to other people, I'll try to hide it or cover it up because it's embarrassing. So yeah, media.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So what are some of the biggest misconceptions that you'd like to change that people think about?
That a lot of people when they hear that, they think that the person is out of control and dangerous, and that's not true. Very few cases, there are very few documented cases where people are actually really dangerous to other people. If most cases we're more dangerous to ourselves, because we have most people will have at least one suicidal alter, but we're not dangerous to other people. We very, very rarely act out against other people. So, and most of us can be relatively high functioning. We hold jobs. Some people with the idea have very prestigious jobs. Herschel Walker, who's a famous football player. I mean, he has DID and he's very successful in his life. So, that's one of the biggest misconceptions about people not they're thinking that if you have this disorder that you're a complete wreck. Another one is how, that people with DID, they think if you have DID that you're not aware of it. And somewhat true to an extent. I wasn't aware of it until my therapist pointed it out to me. And then when he pointed it out, and when learning about it and looking back at my history, I could see the lost time and everything. That all of a sudden it kind of made sense. But once you start noticing time gaps, or if it's been pointed out that stuff's going on, this dissociation, and you start looking for it, you can see it and you can be aware of the DID. You can, it's called co-consciousness, and which is where people can communicate openly with their alters and they can know what's going on. That's what a lot of people with DID strive for. I'm not completely co-conscious with all my alters. Some of them I am, but it's, just because someone has DID doesn't mean that they don't know that they have it and that they are not fully aware of what's going on. They can be aware. So that's like the second misconception. The third would obviously be that switching is not obvious. Most people, it's very, very covert. And most people aren't going to be able to pick up on when switches happen. So I think those are the three big ones. I'm trying to think if there's anything there. I'm sure there's others, but those are the three big ones off the top of my head that really like get me going when I see them, like people writing in comment sections and stuff. It's like, no, you're completely off, So, yep.
Yeah, I mean, watching you on YouTube, like, I would never guess that you would ever hurt anyone. You seem like such a nice person. So, I know, like, I mean, I never really thought about what people with the idea like, because I never really experienced it in my life, or, like, knowing someone with it. But I know I would trust you with, like, anything. Like, you seem like such a nice person. But,
oh, thank you.
Yeah, and also I thought of how you say that you're very high functioning, which is absolutely great. And I feel like it's great how you like talk about it and with people and stuff like that for those people who like aren't as high functioning. So like you can get the word out and teach people about your illness and it helps like everyone who has the illness and everyone who is affected by it. I just think that's really great. I just wanted to point that out.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that's kind of like the point, is to show that there's all these different aspects to people with DID. It's not just like one, it doesn't have to look one way, it can look hundreds of different ways, it manifests differently in each person. So that was kind of the goal with creating the channel.
That's really great. And so what is, in your opinion, the best treatment for DID?
Oh, with research, the two optimal are EMDR and hypnotherapy. There are other, DBT in conjunction with those is supposed to help. I haven't done EMDR, and I haven't gone to therapy for hypnotherapy yet. I'm trying to. I've been trying to get on with a therapist that does it, but I'm still in the process of setting it up. But those two are the two known ones. There are some. That's really. EMDR, hypnotherapy, and DBT are the three main types for this. They're still learning about how to, what therapies work with DID and what don't. My advice for people who do have DID is to be open to anything, to at least trying anything, because there are some people that you read about a certain type of therapy as to what's involved, and you're like, oh, hell no, I don't want to do that. I wouldn't totally put up a wall to it. I would give it a try and see if it helps. If it hurts, definitely stop it immediately if it's hindering you and making you worse. But be open to different types of therapies. And also, it's not just necessarily going to a therapist that's going to completely help you and make your life exponentially better. It's doing self-care and taking care of yourself. It's little things like eating healthy and exercising, and just journaling to yourself. And those are the biggest things. I know some people with DID who have stopped going to therapy for years, and not because everything is completely resolved, but because they find working with themselves a lot better than working with a therapist. So, do what works for you. Don't completely write off any type of therapy just because it doesn't sound like initially that you're in, that's something that you think you wouldn't work. It might work. So, yeah.
That's very good advice.
Thanks.
So, what treatments have you tried for DID, which have worked for you versus which have not worked?
I've only, with my previous therapist, have done DBT, and that actually, that helped a bit, actually. We were making some progress, and then I decided to stop just because it was kind of going a little too fast, and I wanted to take a break from it. And the only, I might go back to the therapist if I can't find like another therapist with more, with other, who knows other types of modalities, such as the EMDR and hypnotherapy. But that's the only one that I've actually tried. Honestly, I'm not that interested in EMDR because I don't like the idea of the moving around the eyes, but I would like to at least give it a try. And hypnotherapy, I would like to definitely. I've done like, there's some hypnosis apps that I'll use when I'm extremely anxious and stuff. They help calm me down. So I think using hypnotherapy, with an experienced therapist who knows dissociation and and DID, because that's a key thing with therapists, is actually finding someone that knows how to work with DID and feels comfortable with it. Just looking for another therapist myself, I've had tons of therapists. A couple of them tell me that that I probably won't be able to find someone that can help me, or that I'm basically that nobody will be able to help me because I'm so high functioning that there's nothing that anyone can do, which is kind of ridiculous. But I just totally forgot where I was going.
I definitely think there's always room for improvement with mental illness. I don't think anyone should tell you that you can't be helped anymore, even though you're in such a great place. I feel like there's always something you can do to improve your life,
Oh, exactly. Yeah, no, definitely. That's what I think people's goals should be.
So, I have one more question. So, sure. What would you say to someone who just got diagnosed with OCD? I'm sorry, DID. I'm just talking about OCD.
You're bringing yourself into this. Yeah. That's going to be next week with your interview.
So what would you say to someone who just got diagnosed with DID?
That when you take your time with accepting it. Look, because usually especially when you're first diagnosed, you want to deny it. You think that the person they think that the therapist is crazy for coming out with that diagnosis usually. Don't totally, just understand that denial is going to play a huge part in it for a long time. And that it takes time to accept that you have it, and it takes time to build up the evidence to prove to yourself that it is real and that you do have it. And be nice with yourself, be gentle. Don't, badger yourself for not, if making progress all the time, or if you have backsleds, that's going to be normal. So, just be gentle with yourself and learn as much as you can about DID. Don't just read one resource. There's tons of different resources on the internet, and in book form too. Just keep researching it all the time. The more you know about it, the better you're going to be able to help yourself. So that's probably the best advice that I could offer to someone that's recently diagnosed with it.
That's really great advice. So I think that's all of my questions. You really answered it all, and I feel like I really understand a lot more. So, you have anything else you'd like to say before we stop the broadcast?
No, I don't think so. I think we covered a lot.
I just wanted to because I don't know much about DID. I don't know if my viewers do, but I wanted to talk about something new for once instead of OCD, because I always talk about OCD. I was actually thinking the other day how I feel like I don't talk enough about OCD, and then I'm like, all of my videos are either about OCD or general lessons. So what am I even doing?
You're like, well, wait a minute, what am I saying?
Exactly. So thank you for coming on here and talking about DID with me. That was really
no problem. Thank you for having me.
So I guess we'll end the broadcast now.
Okay.
But yeah, thanks for talking with me, and yeah, bye.
No problem. Bye.
I hope you guys enjoyed that. Sorry about the awkward bit at the end. I'm horrible at ending things, but thank you guys for watching, and I will see you all later. I hope you enjoyed this. Please check out Jamie1982's channel, and it is an amazing channel where she talks about dissociative identity disorder and PTSD, And yeah, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you all later and next week on Shalom Aleichem if I stick on my schedule. See you guys later. Bye!